Okay, part 4. The message is changing or metamorphosizing. There was a lot of the fuck 12, kill the police, fuck the police in the beginning, and that's starting to dissipate a little bit as different people control the narrative, and also, I assume, to some extent, because the ideals of the protest adapt as they go. It's hard to say that because I don't want to give any credit because of uh, the fact that it's factions of people who have bound together for the as the face of the protesters. There are different groups there with different. Some of them have very different goals. They may have some common ones, but some are different. So, for what it's worth, the message is changing, and the most important thing to look at now is going to be the defund police, because it seems that that's become the go-to message, with other things falling under the umbrella of that. And that means several different things. So let me help you understand what that means from what I've gleaned. It means reallocating money that gets dedicated to law enforcement, especially for the military grade stuff, tactical SWAT, and taking that money and investing it into education, especially in black and brown communities, or other community resources that can have a lasting positive impact, and essentially just doing it in a way where it helps to improve the community that, in, well, I guess, a lot of people's opinion, would need the most policing. So that instead of the money going into police, it goes, I guess, into people, is a way to look at that. And then another thing that comes from the same defund the police, is this is a different faction believes in it this way. They think that police departments should be a thing of the past, and now every community should have their own type of community policing. Every community should have their own resource center, like a community police, but that it's not going to be the same as what the police force is. I haven't got any more details on that. Another version is that it's a complete restructuring of what is the police department, and that is going to be the best example that I got of that so far. Speaking to somebody who's very nice, took some time to talk to me, as somebody who was black, and he threw it out there, I gotta say, like it was just, this is what it is. He knew. He wasn't one of the people marching either. He wasn't, he didn't strike me as being a participant. It was just kind of common, it seemed like it was just kind of common knowledge to him, or he had access to it. But that's what I've been saying the whole time, is that it's, your message ain't clear, it ain't united, and not everybody's getting it. But this guy had a good amount of information about that particular version of the defund, which is restructuring department, which includes things like never doing anything that could potentially be damaging or lethal once a person has handcuffs. And that was a big part of what he was saying. He said that police training needs to be, that this new police force would be trained in a way where once a person has the bracelets on, you don't need to do any other kind of restraining because they've got handcuffs on, and what are they going to do from that point? Absolutely no chokehold should be used ever, and there were some other things that were going to be barred tactics for police to use, but some of them that he said were kind of on the fences, should they not be able to do it, were things that were going to never be allowed to be done after a person's handcuffs. Now, my issue with that is that that's how it is now. That's like the criteria for police now. There's, just like there's sensitivity and diversity training and shit like that for police now, that's standard in most departments from what I understand, the little I understand of it. And I hear what he's saying. Some departments might not have a clear policy on it. So, but even if you are a murderer and you shoot 4 people in a house and the cops come, if you put your gun down and walk out with your hands up, they're not going to be like, well, fuck it, he's a murderer, let's shoot him anyways. If you do something violent, if you surrender and don't do anything, they're supposed to take you into custody. They're not supposed to rough you up for a while first. And that's how it is now. So I don't really know what change that is. He said it even, he said also, he went further to say, all kinds, everybody thinks this means we're going to fire, everybody wants all the police that are in the country fired. That's not it. They want policy changes and restructuring of every aspect of how to do police work. So there were some ideas there that were good ideas, but I didn't really understand. I still don't know if I believe that and that's not already how we currently do it. Now, if it's not in practice where a lot of departments don't do that, or they have people that constantly go around some of those rules, I mean, that's fucked. But that sounds like a disciplinary issue. It doesn't sound like you need to restructure. So I would need to know more about that. From what I understand, that's it. And then there is another one that is complete abolition of the police. Completely no more cops. Great. Okay, I'll support that. I also want to support legal carry for everybody. And I don't want to hear any bullshit about being able to have a gun. Ever. I don't want any more fucking argument about guns. Because if you're going to make me protect myself and my family, you are not going to limit the way that I can do it. So, you want the whole country to be in a gang, this gang, that gang, that gang, because everybody's in different territory where everybody fights. You just want no police. Fine. But then, I don't understand how that one plays out in practicality. I haven't heard anybody give me details of how they support that. But I'm just telling you, my opinion is then everybody has to be armed so that everybody else who might do something violent or would commit a crime, etc., will think, fuck, everybody around me is armed, so if I'm going to do something, I'm going to have less of a chance of getting away with it. I mean, it's kind of how red states do it. I don't know. That's a tough one. And then the last one was, did I do private security companies? Let's assume I didn't. Private security companies, I mean, every city is going to have slightly different rules and methods. I mean, laws are supposed to stay the same, so technically they'd stay the same. But we've seen what's happened with private contractors when it comes to the military. I don't know how long private contractors in the military have been going on, probably for a long time, but we've seen it in the mainstream media for the last decade or two because of so many private contractors in the Middle East. They look like military. They got military clearance. Sometimes they've even got more authority than the military. They're as well armed and as well equipped, sometimes better armed and equipped. And I think that the point of the better armed and equipped and better trained, I mean, when you say better trained, I mean, you're really taking a shit on our fucking government and on our military. I mean, we have the best military in the world, so I just don't fully understand that either. Private companies, I mean, I'm not sure how you think problems are going to be eliminated except for the fact that a township, town, village, city, or state could then fire the company if the company doesn't do what they need. But you're still going to get police work out of them, so it's still going to kind of be the same thing. So those are all the different definitions of what defund the police means. So who is the person who decides which one of those is actually the way that they will press going forward? We don't know because they don't have a leader. They don't have a movement name except for Black Lives Matter. That's a concept, though. That's not it. That's not the person that you go, what do you want from? You can't just, because everybody can support Black Lives Matter. There's not a tier, there's not a hierarchy. So, point being, there's nobody to ask, well, what is the actual definition of defund the police, or what is the goal of that statement? What do you want? Because every faction wants something different, and individual people think one or the that believe in that think that one or the other is a better idea. So that's going to have to be sorted out and discussed and brought to everybody else's attention. But if that is the lone thing that this protest is about now, if that's what puts an end to the fucking violence, even the protests, but especially the violence, the rioting and looting, if that's what puts an end to it, then ain't it time to come up with exactly what the fuck you want, or do you just want this to keep going? Because if that's going to be the only thing, you have to define it, and people have to vote on it, talk about it, think about it. That's why I suspect there's something else, or that's not a serious thing. Because you've got the world's attention. You've got plenty of these cities are, oh, we'll talk about getting rid of all the cops. Sure. They're willing to fucking do it. Apparently Minnesota was willing to do it. So if they're willing to do it, it's time to start putting it to a vote. Put it to a fucking team of people that can put together tangible steps and stop this fucking violence. I was done with this video and was gonna have it uploaded, but then just a couple other things real quick came to mind. I don't think that most of the people that are saying this are saying it because someone who is in a position of power or authority within the protest group has said that this is exactly how it's going to be. I think that they have heard different things, and I think that a lot of them are not aware of how many definitions there are. So, information for defund comes only through social media, from random people. For example, I saw a post on Facebook that was made public that was a picture, a picture with words typed, that said, defund the police means, defund the police doesn't mean. So I'm going to read it to you real briefly, only because I didn't want to protect the privacy of the people who posted and commented on this. This was a person involved in some capacity in Black Lives Matter and or protests, and he said, reposted, because he admits he got it from another source, but he honestly doesn't remember who he got it from. Defund the police does not mean eliminate police funding. It means police will be funded, police will not be overfunded, redistribute the budget, everyone gets a fair share. Defund because police should focus on crimes and criminals. Police are not mental health counselors. Police are not social workers, medical professionals, educational specialists. Police should not be responsible for everything. I'm not sure that anyone would disagree on that. Defund emphasizes reassessing our values, investing in communities, investing in our people, etc. Like I said before, understand that presenting defunding the police as equal to eliminating all funding for police is intentionally misleading and manipulative. Don't fall for that. Except on this guy's post from people that he is friends with. Now, he made this post public so everybody could share it. People that he is friends with, there were actually a couple that jumped on there, and I'm one or two of these people I don't think are his friend, but several of them were, and they're like, well, that's actually not what it means. It means, and then they put up their own little picture meme type thing that said defunding the police means absolutely no more police, taking all the money that's in the budget from this point forward, allocating it differently, reallocating the stockpile of weapons and technology, etc. that they have. The person put one of those pictures up that said, fund community safety, which is like a combination, which is part of that community thing idea. It doesn't really have a definition. I haven't seen it yet. Fully defund police, end the carceral state, resource healthy community practices and needs, and it says abolition. Another person just made a comment. We say defund because we mean defund, not this liberal backstep. Defunding means the police will be funded. That makes no sense. Policing is racialized violence and should absolutely 100% be defunded in its entirety. That is the end game. So they don't know because there's no leader. But reading that and then seeing this Minnesota mayor get thrown out of his own city,
Police Department.
Have a list of it?
What am I saying? We don't want no more police.
No
Is
more.
that clear?
I do not support you pulling out the list.
All right. Lie. You wasting our time. Get the out of here.
Since you're already watching that, I found another place where a continuation of that occurs. Let's watch the rest of his walk of shame. It goes on for a while longer, but it goes on like that. Not only did they say, fuck you, you wasted our time, not only did they flick their finger at him and say, you can go home, then they chanted go home, and then after a minute of that, them walking through this extensive crowd, they just changed it to shame. Then yesterday, a couple days after that happened in Minnesota to the mayor, just humiliated like a fucking, just bitch slapped. Just bitch slapped. What happens in New York? Continuing to expect them to stay out on their beat and work and keep people safe, including protesters, and they are doing absolutely nothing except for telling them, keep everybody safe, do your job, but don't arrest anyone and don't use any kind of restraint with anyone, even if they're coming at you. So along with, they did something else. There's something in their state, some part of a bill that protects their home address and family names when they're involved in a case in the state, because these protesters in that area would communicate with them directly, said we want that gone. They agreed to do that. So all them guys on blast. The mayor of D.C. took a position also, and using state money, had state employees painting slogans on the Capitol streets. So that in itself doesn't tell you that they're fully for the defund, but as that becomes more and more what it looks like is going to be the final definition of what defund means, basically showing her support in that city also. So if you're counting so far, this is Minneapolis, New York, and D.C. And we've already seen that Los Angeles is going to go the distance, so it won't be long for all of California to do this also. Mayor of Chicago, she's been doing a lot of interesting stuff, but she just got caught on tape. Somebody leaked a conference call between her and the alderman, and you have to listen to that. It's, I mean, there are aldermen from all the districts, aldermen of all races and sexes, saying the same thing to the mayor. You were telling the police, don't do anything, and the amount of damage and violence ripping through our districts is catastrophic. What do you suggest? And they asked her the same question in various ways, each different alderman citing examples of Walmart's not going to come back to our district. Our district is in such bad shape that we've had this much damage and this many murders and this much violence and this many police shot. Our district is so much gang territory that we have gangbangers with, fully automatic guns that are ready to go to war, and they're literally walking around out on the street not trying to conceal them because they know the police won't do anything. What is your plan going forward? Because it can't continue like this because our citizens are going to get hurt. And they kept asking her and she kept deflecting, and this last guy said, don't not answer the question I'm asking you, and she flew off the handle and said, you're full of shit, that's not happening, you guys are misrepresenting how bad it is, and she just lost it. You got to hear that. That's it's a good piece of information to have. So, is Black Lives Matter still simply a concept? Because I just talked about that, and I really defended it because it is a concept. it was originally a concept. But in the last few days, it seems that it's not, and I'll offer an alternative real briefly. It seems that I'm going to speculate that it is a concept, but just like these protests have been hijacked by extremists, that concept in itself is being hijacked and very quickly molded into a political party. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just that's what it seems like. As we have no source of solid information to cite as a source for defund, all I can say is that although some of the people in this protest, many of them, seem to think that defund means any one of these other four definitions, from reallocation to setting up whatever community police are, to restructuring of what is there, keeping the majority of the police employed and retraining in every aspect, and privatized police. A lot of them, including the person who posted that I read from, were surprised to hear that. So there's definitely a control group and leader out there, but they're not public. They're not making themselves public, and whoever is either sharing this information or disinformation is not making it public where it's coming from. The phrase defund the police, even though it was there in the beginning of these protests, because this wasn't that long ago, remember, 10, 11 days, whatever it was, the phrase defund the police, which showed up on rare occasion between all the other signs, was also accompanied by fuck the police, fuck 12, kill the police. And as those signs dissipated, defund, defund, defund started to become more popular, and you see it everywhere to the point now where it's being talked about on TV. But now, in the last couple of protests that I went to, while some people were still holding up signs that said defund the police, and some people were holding up signs that said demilitarize the police, and other things that are spin-offs of each one of these definitions, several people had the word abolish. So unless the definition of the word abolish has changed, that seems to be the next part of this that is on the rise. And even if abolition was the true goal, they still want to use the word defund because it's going to make it more complicated for other people to understand it, because nobody reports on it. CNN reports it one way, CNBC reports it very similar to CNN, Fox reports it another way, and the independent outlets that are trying to get information are limited. And some of them just copy the major ones anyways, but the people have gone out and done the research. I mean, I've been there myself, and I'm telling you, I don't know. There's no one to ask. I suspect something, but I don't know. So we will see. We'll see how that works going forward. But expect to see the word abolish more frequently, especially as cities, major cities in the United States, decide on whimsy that they are going to back that idea because they're afraid of losing political power or being labeled as a racist. Even minority leaders, because the definition of the word racist is now going to be changed in the Merriam-Webster dictionary. That's it.